Hey, group, what's going on? How are you, gentlemen? Nico, Joe, what's up?
How's it going, man? Glad to be back. It's been a little bit. We missed a couple cycles, I think.
Not good. How you doing, Nico?
Good. How are you guys? Did you get any crazy emails lately, Tony?
Yeah, I always get crazy emails. It's weird because I have a business website, so I get hit with like spam, like crazy spam emails, and it's it undulates. Sometimes I'll get like I'll wake up and well, when I wake up, it's early, like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know where these spams are coming from, but sometimes I'll wake up, I'll have 10 or 20, maybe not 20, but 10 or 15 emails, spams. And then other days I'll have like two or three, but they're consistent, man. These people don't quit. Joe, you
So,
moved.
what was
Yeah,
on
I
the
actually
agenda
have.
for today,
Oh, go
Tony?
ahead.
I didn't even catch that. You wanted to talk about um the drummer teacher or the that rock and roll guy?
Oh, no, well, well, first of all, Joe, congratulations on your move. That's been a big thing. That's been kind of hanging you up, and now we got that out of the way. Talk about that.
Yeah, I was MIA for a while, man. That I really underestimated that. And to anybody who's listening out there, if you're planning a move, I tell you, don't do it. No matter what, don't do it. It's not worth it. Oh man. Or if you're gonna do it, just get some good insurance and burn your house down. Honestly, it's better. You can let your family know or not. It's up to you. You know when you start the fire, but I don't understand it. Like, we must be hoarders. Like, Tony, you've been to the house. I didn't think we had a bunch of stuff packed everywhere. But when you start to actually try and organize it, and especially like, we got, counting the kids, it's 5 people. I mean, we got stuff dating back to, well, I got stuff from like, from my youth, and some stuff from my parents. That's small though, but like, man, the kids kind of like Casey's, he's off in Thailand. So like he was here and then like all his stuff was basically left behind. Oh, like I said, you really learn to like appreciate the bachelor life when you're trying to pack up your whole family shit for a move, man. Oh, yeah, just forget it. Like I said, I think what happens is like you go through that pain. It's kind of like what I've heard women describe childbirth is that like you kind of forget the pain by the time your next kid comes along, and then you're like, what did I get myself? It's the same thing with the move, because it's probably like 4 years since we moved again, and I'm like, oh yeah, we'll move. This is a nicer place. And then once you're in the midst of it, and you're like, oh my god, how am I going to get all this stuff like organized and back to normal? It's weird. So I think, yeah, my life is still not normal. Like, I haven't really had a good workout at home. I used to have the home gym set up, so I could go down there and just, now I'm like, just trying to grab a space of floor somewhere to do some push-ups or ab work, but it's not the same. So ultimately it'll be worth it. But yeah, it definitely takes a toll on you. You've been in your place for a while, right?
Here, 7 years.
Okay. Well, that's not too long. I mean, that's, and that was a long move for you guys because you came from the city way and moved way out. So
Yeah, and I've had people. I mean, at one point there was four people living here. I was married and I had a buddy, and now it's just my mom and I, and it's been extraordinarily difficult. Now she's at the stage where she really doesn't know who I am anymore.
mm,
That I mean, I got a couple of calls. Yes, one yesterday, one today. from the daycare. And so we're entering into the probably second to the final stage with her. So it's stressful for me. But yeah, I mean, moving, and I don't want to when I have to move from here, it's going to be, man, yeah, it's going to be chaos, man. I'll have to recruit you guys to help.
Yeah, maybe we'll see if I might happen to lose your number at that point if I.
Yeah, right. Um, but yeah, no, yesterday I had to try to fire up the lawnmower for the first time this season and cut the grass, and thankfully it started after the fourth pull on pull number 5, which was
Sounds like
a very
me.
good thing. Huh?
That's your lucky number.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it started up. I was lucky. Yeah, I'm glad that happened. So I was able to cut that grass and getting ready for another month and a half will be summer.
So Joe, do you want to become a minimalist now after moving?
Yeah, you definitely. Yeah, I go through a phase where I don't want any more junk. Yeah, I'm just gonna sit on the middle of the floor with a mat, stare at the wall for a while.
That's the same with me. After moving, I thought the same thing.
But then I forget, like within 6 months, I'm like, oh, that's some cool shit. I'll buy that. And then I just never use it or whatever. And I put it away. Same thing. It's the pattern of my life. Or the other thing is that like usually when we're moving, like it is towards the end, like you got 75%. It's that last 25% where you're like, oh my God. And I just start like excessively getting rid of stuff. Like we either donate it or trash it, throw it out. And then I'll invariably be like 8 months from now, I'll be like, where was that thing I really need? And then it'll dawn on me. Yeah, I think I chucked that. Yeah, like a dumbass. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't with that kind of stuff, man. So, yeah, I think, basically buy a house and just load it with your stuff and never leave, and just hope that the neighbors, when you pass away, they just find you in it and then they have to deal with it, like they just have an estate sale or whatever. But yeah, try not to be responsible for your stuff is what I'm advocating for, I guess. Like, see if you can pawn it off on somebody.
That'll probably be me. When I move from here, I mean, this is a house. I'll be moving into either an apartment or renting a room from somebody, right? Because at my age, I'm not going to be with anybody. So yeah, I'll have to try to sell off everything I have. Pretty much just sell it, except for like a bedroom set and maybe my living room. That's it. I mean, I'm not going to have use for all of this stuff. So it's yeah, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, and you got like a lot of cool like old jazz records you probably couldn't get again. Like that's going to be a tough call on some of that stuff.
Yeah, well, that I'll probably keep that. I mean, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't even have a stereo set up anymore. I haven't in years. I sold my stereo system to my buddy Scott. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't even want to think about that now. But just trying to. I haven't felt well, the last few weeks, and the thing with my mom is just finally crashing me. It's a stress, man. The stress is no good, man. It's no good. So the Cleveland Indians, as of yesterday, were in a 3-way tie for first place with the Royals and the legendary Chicago White Sox. You're a Cub fan, aren't you, Joe?
Yeah, I definitely would have to be more Cubs than Sox. At least when I grew up, when I was a kid, because I grew up on the north side, probably like 3 miles away from Wrigley. So yeah, it was all about the Cubs. I mean, although, like I said, I wasn't one of those like zealots where I hated the Sox, because we were so starved back in the 70s. People don't remember, people pre-Jordan, or people who were, here Jordan and post, don't remember how horrible it was to be a sports fan in Chicago. I mean, it was almost as bad as being a Cleveland fan. There was so little, like I remember as a kid, like I didn't know a damn thing about soccer, but we had a soccer team. They were just starting in the US with soccer. We had the Chicago Sting and they won. And I was just happy that they won something. It's like, holy shit, I guess I'm a soccer fan because, we have a champion in Chicago finally. So when the Sox, got into the World Series and stuff, I was all about it. I didn't care. I just wanted somebody to win from Chicago. But yeah, but like the last couple of decades, we've been relatively pretty spoiled, honestly. Except for football. I think the last time was it the '85 Bears or whatever. But yeah, but yeah, I actually honestly never thought I'd see the Cubs win. I just thought it was some psychological curse on them. I was kind of and I didn't believe in a mystical curse, but man, I just felt whatever it was. I didn't actually think in my lifetime I would see them win. So it's weird now that they've won. It's kind of like, well, gosh, what's left, Man, it's also weird how much that impacted the area. I mean, it might just be me, but it was almost kind of nicer when they were a bunch of losers,
They still are. Don't worry. They still are.
But the thing is they have the stench of victory on them. Like, a lot of people are paying more for, like, you should see how built up it is around Wrigley now. Like, it's not the same, and again, this is the old man and me reminiscing about back in the day, but like when you're in Wrigley, you used to see like, guys on the rooftops with their Webers, watching the game, in a couple folding chairs. And man, now, I mean, they've got these corporate, bleachers set up and all these giant hotels. I mean, there used to be this like little dive donut shop right outside of Wrigley. And, all this, now it's all these, just the money that's poured in there is just, it's the whole different, Wrigleyville just looks totally different to me, at least right around the park.
Joe, did you grow up in Wrigleyville?
Not Wrigleyville itself. So I was actually kind of over, like I said, I was about 3 miles, so closer to the river. I mean, almost exactly west of it. So like if you know the high school, Gordon Tech on the north side, I was right in that neighborhood growing up as a kid. But it was close enough. Like I said, it was, definitely far north side for most people. So, but I actually got to go to the old Comiskey Park too, before they tore that down. Got to go there because my one of my buddies from grammar school, his dad was an avid Sox fan, even though we were on the north side. You just never know, like how people grow up. They pick a team and stick with it. So I got to go there and watch the old, exploding scoreboard and stuff. It was cool,
Frank Gotch and Hackenschmidt wrestled at Comiskey.
Wow.
And
Wow.
they did. Yeah, and I went to Comiskey as well. I moved to Chicago in 1987, and I was immediately unimpressed with Chicago sports fans. And to this day, I kind of hold them in contempt. And the reason being, while most football players realize Walter Payton was by no means the greatest running back, that honor goes to Jim Brown from Cleveland. They forgot about Payton in this town. It was all Michael Jordan. And when Jordan hit, it was like Payton never existed, and I always felt bad in that regard for Walter Payton. And I kind of shook my head at the sports fans in this town because they're not knowledgeable enough they're fickle. Okay. It's like, who's the new boy in town, right? Who's the new guy? And I moved here, in the midst of, the Bulls in their 6 seasons of winning the NBA title. And I'll never forget that. I'm like, Jesus, man. And I can remember going out to bars when, let's say one of the sports teams in baseball the postseason was over. These places didn't even put on the baseball games, right? The playoffs, because nobody was in it. I'm like, yeah, this is really not a sports town. It really isn't. It's a niche. You go onto the south side, you're not going to watch a Cubs game. They're not going to play a Cubs game. You go onto the north side, they're not going to play a Sox game. It's rare that you'll find that. But I really felt bad for, Walter Payton. He was almost like forgotten, and that I'm like, yeah, this is a fair weather town as far as sports goes, here today, gone tomorrow kind of thing. Whereas you go to Cleveland even now, Jim Brown retired in the 60s, and 50 plus years ago, and he's still, he's revered. And in the NFL, he is at the highest level. Walter Payton, I only believe, led the league once in rushing, just one time. He led the NFC, whereas Jim Brown played 9 seasons. He led the NFL in rushing 8 out of those 9 seasons. And yeah, he was the greatest of all time, in my opinion, in the NFL. I never got to meet the guy or anything, but it was it was a shame when, Peyton with the liver cancer, and I remember when all that went down. I met him once in his parking lot. He owned a place in Schaumburg. I said, "Hi, sweetness." It was just him and I. All right. He was coming out. I was going in. He didn't even say hello, to be honest with you. But I knew a guy, my friend who passed away about a year or so ago, Dr. Vic. They used to lift weights together because they all lived in Barrington, in that area, Lake Barrington and Barrington Shores or whatever. And but yeah, I only met him once. Remember when Peyton shot somebody? Do you remember that, guys?
No, I don't
Oh,
remember.
and I never heard about that. Tell us.
Yeah. Somebody in his nightclub, in his office, there was a problem, and yeah, Peyton ended up shooting the guy, believe it or not. But obviously nothing came of that.
Although,
yeah, I get he was a great guy. I mean, according to the people that knew him.
for sure, and did a lot of charity work and stuff. And I think people still in Chicago remember him, but probably not as big as, like Jim Brown would be to Cleveland. Jim Brown's more equivalent, like he is the Michael Jordan of football. He's not just, a great, I mean, he is generally considered probably the greatest football player of all time. I mean, there might be some quarterbacks or something but I think, it's kind of like, I don't think anybody here is ever going to forget Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Like
No.
And so not diminishing Walter Payton at all. Obviously he's a world class and he might not have been the greatest running back of all time, but he surely was, up in the top 10 always, and very dominant athlete. What's interesting too, speaking of like Chicago running backs, is I think, was there one season where Jim Brown and Gale Sayers were both active? Because we had Gale Sayers was another kind of a cool running back we had. I think.
Well, I met Gale Sayers and shook his hand. He had a nice, firm handshake. You know me, I'm all about the grip. I thought Sayers was better than Walter Payton. He had the moves. He had I just thought Gale Sayers, he was faster. I thought he was a hell of a player. But I can tell you this, I spent maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes. Doesn't sound like much, and it isn't, with Gale Sayers. And just the genuineness of that man. There was literally nothing. He was talking to you like he was in high school, like he was like, what's going to happen next period, right? He was just so down to earth, just a marvelous, wonderful guy. It was a boxing thing. It was not a boxing thing in specifically, but it was an induction, a Hall of Fame induction thing here. My friend Vince and Johnny Lira, the fighter, the three of us went. And I'll tell you, like I say, Gale Sayers ended up having Alzheimer's as well. And it's, I just cannot tell you how nice, genuinely nice that guy was. And I got to meet another Chicago Bear, many, this was probably like in 1998-ish. I met Ronnie Bull, who played back then with Sayers and Brian Piccolo and all that. And I had a friend who was an NFL player, and he was the head of the retired NFL players, players union or whatever. And he played for the LA Rams back in the 60s, Roman Gabriel. He was a punter and a backup quarterback. Anyhow, shame on me. I did not know who Ronnie Bull was. I never heard of him. And I told him that. I said, Mr. Bull, I'm sorry. I'm a Cleveland guy. I honestly don't know you, right? But boy, what a nice man that guy was. Unbelievable. And I asked him a few questions about Brian Piccolo. And he was very forthright. And again, I cannot tell you how nice of a man Ronnie Bull was. So there, there's outstanding people out there, believe me, in the world of athletics.
That's encouraging to hear, especially about those. Well, I mean, the old timers probably were more so nice, but you always hear about, when you run into these celebrities or superstars that it changes them, it changes so many people when you have that kind of money and people that they don't want to, like you said, be genuine with, like, normal people like ourselves. It's cool they're not affected by that. That's cool to hear. The one thing with Gale Sayers, we're talking clearly his athleticism was off the charts, speed and agility, but the one thing maybe because he was injured pretty regularly and early, like his career was pretty short, I think. So like the durability might have been a thing, or maybe it was a freak accident. I don't know specifics around why he had to get out, but I know his career was cut short, I think, because of some leg injuries. And back then, I don't think they had the kind of surgeries to repair stuff. If you tore some ligaments or something, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, and that's the remarkable thing of Jim Brown, who played in an era and basically overlap with Gale. I mean, Brown was older. Uh, unless I'm mistaken, Jim Brown never missed a game in his 9-year career. He walked away from football. And again, now let's make this perfectly clear. I don't know Jim Brown. I never met Jim Brown. I don't know anybody who knows Jim Brown. But from what I know of, from what I heard through the grapevine, it was all over a problem with acting, because he wanted to act. And I guess the catalyst was the Dirty Dozen movie. Um, Jim Brown had a problem with Paul Brown, who was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns are named after Paul Brown. Okay, that's where the Browns got their name. So so they got rid of Paul Brown, the head coach, and and Jim Brown was an activist. They talk about players now. Jim Brown was a major league activist in the 60s. Again, I was just a child. Um, I don't remember any of this. I was born in 64. That's the last year the Browns won anything. But it's I do recall that when I was old enough to understand things, Franco Harris from the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to throw up saying the Steelers name in public, but they were he was the guy that was approaching Jim Brown's rushing record. And that again, I say that because it shows you that Walter Payton really wasn't even on the radar, and Payton ended up being the one who broke the record. But Jim Brown or Franco was close, so they did some television competition between Franco Harris and Jim Brown, like a superstars kind of thing, running the 40 and things like that. And it didn't work out too well for Jim Brown there. But what a lot of folks may not know is Jim Brown was considered one of the world's greatest lacrosse players, and he is in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame. And he was a star lacrosse player. I believe he went to Syracuse. Gale Sayers went to Kansas, I believe.
Yeah,
And
Kansas Comet.
yeah, and Peyton, so not Peyton. Jim Brown was, so he was a 2-star world class athlete. Just so yeah. And Kansas, for Gale Sayers, when you think about it, yeah, I don't know where Gale Sayers was born. I don't know, but you don't think of superstars coming out of Kansas, but Gale Sayers, in my opinion, was not just a superstar football player. He was a superstar human being, and he did a lot of behind the scenes charitable works and so on. And the world's a lot worse without him in it. I mean, I just admired the man incredibly, and it was my honor to meet him and shake his hand.
Yeah, that's very cool that you got to meet him, and that's awesome. Yeah, that's and that they turned out to be like that way in person, because so often when you meet people, sometimes it just doesn't work out well, or they just they're not able to pay attention. So like when I come over and visit you.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The next, because I would think if you can start like giving me like maybe a lock of your hair every, once in a blue moon, not always, but now and then. And that could help me out because that could be my ticket to like a lifetime of financial security. To own a lock of your hair, can you imagine what that's worth? Think about that.
Well, hold on to your hats, because this may be the end of the length run. I may be able to give you a lot more than just a lock of my hair. I might be there's some pressure to conform and go back to corporate standards from here at the household. Um, there's a guy at work who's grown his hair out, and none of us. He's one of those guys. Just nobody really likes him at the office, and so every
So he's
time
kind of like you.
yeah, maybe I'm thinking of myself, but if you can imagine it even worse. So like I see this guy and I look at him and I'm like, oh my God, that's where I'm headed. Like I can see the future. And I pointed that out to my wife and she's like, oh my God, you're right. That's what you're going to look. Cause he looks the similar looks. And she's like, man, you gotta, cause now I put it in her head. She's like, oh my God, you look like, and she's like, you got to cut that hair. So yeah, so we might have a very long supply. Maybe we can kind of braid it into like a rope for you or something you can wear, or we'll figure out something. It's not
hang myself with it. Yeah,
A wig. How about a wig?
Well, that's for you, Nico.
I'll take it.
Yeah, right.
We should we should do an episode, Joe, where I give you a fade, right? And then the next episode, you go on with a short fade, and I'll wear your wig. So we'll trade places.
That would be cool.
Actually, when Ben first came to the Tool and Die, I brought my son Ben to come work out at the second Tool and Die, the one in Bensonville. We came up the stairs, because he was like, I kept trying to encourage him, hey, you're going to want to come work out. You're going to love this, right? And he was one of those kids who's like, like, I don't want to go to any kind of dojo or anything. He just, it was like, he was too cool for school, right? He didn't want to do any of that stuff. But I'm like, no, you got to trust me. This is not a dojo you're going to. All right. And we go up the stairs, and the first thing we get to the top of the stairs, and there's gosh, I can't remember who was cutting whose hair. I want to say you were sitting in the chair, one of the big pool chairs, with a cigar in your mouth, and Kevin's behind you with clippers. He's got a cigar too, and he's like clipping your hair, like, yeah, put it there. And then it was just like, oh, cool. And so like afterwards, yeah, we did our workout or whatever, and he's sucking in all the atmosphere of like, the mounted heads of the deer and the cigarette butts on the tray, and, and everything's kind of grimy and tough. And afterwards we left the workout, and he just turned to me and he looked at me and he's like, that was awesome. Like, and he kept reliving the story of like the first thing he sees is like, Kevin with the cigar in his mouth, a clipper on Tony, trimming you up. It's like, oh,
there'll never be another place like that. And that was like the coolest joint. It's going to be 4 years that Kevin got killed. Coming up July 1st. The weekend of the 4th of July thing, and man, I can't believe it. Time's just launching by. It's just flying by.
Man, with all the talents you told me about Kevin, I never heard the story about that he was good at cutting hair too.
Oh, look,
it's like the guy's good at everything. It sounds like.
No, yeah, nobody said he was good. Look at the result. 4 years later or whatever, 10 years later. No, Kevin was the state go-kart champ. And for those people out there that think go-karts are like kids stuff, no. Adults, these are 120 mile an hour vehicles. Go-kart champ state.
Formula One come from, right? Like,
yeah.
Formula One, you start out as a kid doing go-karts. So it's like it's
not even just a kid. I mean, you even adults still race it. You go from go-karts to midgets. He was a midget racer. A trap shooting champion. He won, and then, Missouri and Illinois state bench press champ, and all that shit. The guy, and he was in his tool and die back in 70 or 71, whenever he graduated, he was the apprentice of the year. So, you know, around that's for the whole United States. So, yeah, the guy was one of a kind. He was pretty awesome.
Yeah, whatever passions he had or interest, he pursued them. I mean, the guy could fly planes. He could do, hunting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing he told. Yeah, he flies planes.
I mean,
Well, that's how he got killed. He got killed in a plane crash. But yeah, he did so much, and he could design. He made pieces of equipment, workout equipment. Sometimes I'd have an idea. It's just very rough idea, not like I drew anything up, and he would go from there. It's like, I got it. I'll figure this out. Anything. The guy was like an engineer. He was just really. But he was better than an engineer. Some engineers don't have the real world experience; they're all theoretical. Kevin had that real world experience. He knew what would work, what wouldn't work. The best. The guy was. Well, Brian Denis talks about him.
Yeah.
Still in awe.
I still remember too, like at the original Tool and Die, or at least I don't know if it's the original, but the one on Mannheim. Occasionally we'd be working out there, and he'd take off. His bike would be parked right there, So he's like I forget what he'd say. It's like, "See you later, gladiators."
Gladiators, yes, gladiators.
And he'd start up his Harley or whatever right there, and he'd just like leave out the back,
He would always say, "See you, gladiators, later." That's what he would always say, just like that, man. Yeah, he was unbelievable. Yeah, him and I had a lot of plans for the future. Unfortunately, what happens, but he was strong. He just was strong. Not Ravon strong. By the way, we're going to have a Ravon episode next week, and we're going to discuss next week. We're going to launch finally the membership program next week, and we'll discuss that all next week. So we're going to launch it next week, and we're going to dedicate a little episode to Stanley J. Rodvon, world's strongest man and greatest catch wrestler of them all.
That'll be awesome. I'm very much looking forward to having that. There's so many great stories.
Yeah, don't get me started, because I'll start talking now. So nope, we're gonna veer off of that. So yeah, it's well, yeah, we're in the beginning of May, and I'm looking out the window. We had not storms today. We were supposed to. We had a little bit of rain, not much. And really, to be honest with you, April, we didn't have a lot of rain here in April.
They're saying it might be drought conditions, or not like oppressive, but there's some there. Even though we had all that snow in February, that we didn't. We had enough of a deficit after that there might be some drought conditions around here.
Yeah. So, Nico, I'm catching you in the middle of a drink. Berwin, how's things going out there?
Oh, it's going fine, man. There's been a couple incidences of violence the past couple weeks. Sunday night, somebody got shot and killed on Winona and 13th Street. And then the week before that, right here at the corner store, it's called Valley's Produce. Somebody was shopping in there, and apparently this woman worked the cashier. Her daughter was in there, and she went to go tell her mom she was taking a water or something, and the guy just went nuts, started punching her, a little 14-year-old girl, and then the mom tried to stop him, and he started punching her. And then there was a guy that was delivering, I think he was delivering from Vintners. So he's making a delivery. He sees all this commotion, and he goes to break it up. And then apparently, from what they said, that the guy looked like he was leaving. And then he just walked right back in the store and stabbed the guy to death. And then when he was walking out, I guess somebody else tried to stop him, and he got stabbed. And then apparently they found him like a couple blocks away later on and covered with blood. So they caught the guy. But yeah, there's been a lot of violence this past couple weeks.
It's, there's a hero there, the Vintner guy, just doing the right thing. And look what happens. But you know what? That's always been the case, I'm sure. I mean, I remember that shit happening as a kid. I'm sure long before I was ever even born, you have stories of that, heroes, people. There was a boxer. Boy, oh boy, goodness gracious. I can't think of his name right now because you know how my memory is poor. And I believe Grantland Rice maybe wrote a little essay on him. Was it the Brownsville Bum? Don't know. Anyhow, he was from New York and he was a fighter, boxer. And he was in a bar and it was a hold up, a stick up, and he intervened. And he ended up getting shot, ended up dying, protecting the people of the bar. And I'm not sure if it was Grantland Rice. It may have been another Pulitzer Prize winning author. As a matter of fact, he may have won the Pulitzer over the little essay that he wrote. And I know this boxer. Right now, my brain is drawing a blank. But this was back in the 40s, I believe. So yeah, you do have people like the Vintner guy that you're mentioning that will be forgotten. No one will think about a guy like that, but that's a hero. That's a hero.
Apparently, he went to the same high school as me. He wasn't, I think a few years younger than me, I think. So I don't remember him. I didn't see the picture of him, but a friend of mine said that, yeah, he's from our high school.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that word hero because that's a word that's so over Jesus. I'm gonna knock my laptop over. That's so overused, and but you do have genuine heroes, always have, and always will, I hope, in this world. And yeah, it's a tragedy, but it can happen anywhere, and it does happen anywhere. But people tend to cue in on like a city like Chicago. Well, Chicago's the third largest city in the United States of America. And it's probably in the top 20 or 30 in the world, probably, right? Population wise. So you're going to have those things happen when you have millions of people. It's a matter of statistics. But I can tell you what, there's roughly 7 billion people in the world. You tell me who has better hair than Joe. You can't name one. Not one person has better hair than Joe. Think about that mathematically. Right, Joe?
Can't argue with it. Can't argue with science or math.
Oh my goodness, look at you.
I know it's
everything.
Scary.
You're like in the darkness now. This is like, oh my goodness, it's like watching The Omen or something, or The Exorcist with you. Hey, can you spin your head around, Joe? Can you do that? Can you do that? The power of Christ compels you.
Don't get Catholic on me now.
Yeah, I was an altar boy, man. What do you want from me?
Hey, you got to be careful with those altar boys.
Don't be picking on us. We're gonna form a union one of these days, and we're gonna come and get people like you. Think about it.
Yeah. What the hell are we talking about now? Oh yeah. Well,
nothing, right?
No, we were talking. Actually, it was very serious because we're the one thing about as far as the Vintner guy's situation is it's kind of a sober reminder. It's like, after an initial altercation, don't forget the guys can come back.
It's the get backs, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the guy was ambushed or how it all went down, but it's a reminder. Like you can break something up, but you better until you're safely out of there, you had to better, keep your awareness alert, because it's very likely that, if someone gets interrupted, they may come back, and they may, like in this case, the guy went and got a knife and came back, amped up. So that's it's tragic, but it's a reminder to everybody. We're very obviously self-defense focused here. So that's definitely something to keep in mind whenever there's an altercation. Like, if you get into it with someone at a bar or something, maybe it's time to get out of there, because, the second time they come around, it's going to be a lot worse.
Well, I knew a couple. I knew a husband and wife. I don't think I should mention their names. Well, Kathy and Mark. Okay. That's as far as I'll go. They owned a bar on Irving Park in technically Norridge, across the street is Chicago. And there was a killing in the bar. Started in the bar, ended, guy left, came back and killed the guy outside, right, in the bar, in the front door. They ended up, losing the bar. I'm not certain it was because of that. I ran into Kathy at the Walgreens not long after that, maybe 3 weeks, and she was in hysterics. You have to worry about that. You always do. You always have to worry about get backs with situations like that. And you read about it, and it happens everywhere. Little hick towns, big metropolises like Chicago. So nobody can say, "Oh, look, the problems of the big city." No, it happens a lot, especially in little hole in the wall places too. Little neighborhood, country type of joints, because everybody knows everybody, and you don't want to lose face. So it's tragic. But yeah, you're right. You always have to worry about that. That's why I've always preached that anytime you get into a street encounter, you have to expect to lose your life. You have to go in there knowing, today I'm going to die. Okay? You have to be prepared for that. I'm going to die over this. And then if you don't die, that's great. It's awesome. But you have to know what you're getting yourself into, man.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the businesses too. I mean, because I think you would think after an incident like that has been on all over the news, people stop shopping there for a while,
Yeah, and really, it's not the owners in this instance.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with them.
Yeah, it had nothing to, sometimes in bars they get overserved or something happens, you still shouldn't point the finger, but bars get a bad rap. And I'm not ready to venture into this topic because I've done no research on statistics, but I don't know if bars have a disproportionate amount of murderous violence compared to other places. I mean, it does happen, but I don't know if it's disproportionate. I would tend to think not, because I can remember many times, Nico, well, Joe, you should know this too. There was a business on North Avenue, or on North Avenue. I don't know if it would be North Lake. Going back about 20 years ago, somewhere near, I don't know if it was the Zenith plant. It was somewhere near the Zenith plant. It was before you got to Manheim. And a worker shot everybody up in that place. And I didn't live that far from there at that time. And I can remember driving by the very next day, they had security in the parking lot and stuff. It was an employee, and look at the Postal Service. Years ago, that they used to say, "Oh, this guy's going postal on me," right? The postal workers would go nuts and start killing people in the postal, post offices and what have you. So violence can happen everywhere, man. Everywhere. Churches, everywhere. It doesn't matter,
Well, yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, at least, say what you will about the way media hypes some of that stuff sometimes, but at least people are very aware now that there is no safe place. I was just thinking about that. I mean, in the way, and I don't mean to get political or whatever, but really, like you said, you mentioned churches. I remember for a long time, certain religious people I was talking about, well, it's not going to happen there. And sure enough, it happened there, and it's happened in movie theaters. And I mean, there's not a public gathering where it hasn't happened or couldn't be targeted. And that's the thing is like, wherever the security is light, that's what's going to attract people. And it's unfortunate, and there's, in some ways, there's no escaping it. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the interesting question about the bars. I mean, because you'd kind of assume, because people are having alcohol, certain people just tend to get more violent that way. And I mean, they've had bouncers since way back, for a reason, but maybe that bouncer actually diffuses enough stuff that it doesn't, I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Well, I bounced through the years, and yeah, I've gotten into. I've never, as a bouncer, never witnessed a murder, right? So there was never, but yeah, no, I think that people want to make that rush to judgment about bars, and I don't know. I don't. My instinct is that the numbers will not hold up. That it just, you hear, to me, in my little, and I try to narrow what I hear, because I try to tune things out. Road rage and parking lot incidences, like at Walmarts or wherever, those you hear a lot about. I hear more of that kind of stuff than I do a shooting at a nightclub or a shooting at a bar. Not diminishing it when it happens. I'm just saying, I hear more of non-bars,
Well, a lot of us, I mean, numerically, a lot of it's going to be gang and drug related too. I mean, that's where a lot of the killing in the U.S. is happening. It's, impoverished neighborhoods where people are pretty desperate. And that's where, and there's territory. And that's where, I mean, I think that's where the numbers are going to be. But I mean, yeah, violence is random. And like you said, road rage. I mean, even, out in the burbs, I've seen it, people just, maybe not necessarily murders, but violence, and the threat of violence. So, I mean, I think we've talked about that a lot on this podcast, and it's something to keep in mind. I mean, it's why we train. I think people lose sight of that. Sometimes they get into the sportive aspect or whatever, but the bottom line is, this is why we're doing it, because, it is a very valid, it's probably safety is the prime need in life. You need to be safe, and you should never take that for granted.
Yeah, there was some MMA guy that got killed a couple months ago, maybe. You know, domestic situation. So yeah, yeah, there's a difference between there just is. Real world is a whole different element. So yeah, anyhow, you were talking about your Cubs. You're on the dark side there, man. You're a Cub fan, and I'll use my altar boy skills to pray for your salvation, I guess, or something. I don't know. I got to get you out of that. But how they doing? I don't follow the Cubs. I'm not a Cub fan at all. But I don't know. The White Sox, the Indians, and the Royals are tied for first.
Oh, and I haven't been following that either. I mean, I'm definitely kind of the sports fan you referred to. It's like I've definitely gravitated. I don't. Well, like we've talked about here, is I need to get back into watching MMA again and kind of knowing who's in the fight scene. I've kind of drifted away from just watching sports in general, and not knowing what's going on. Yeah, so I couldn't even tell you that. But speaking of MMA news or whatever, did you see that the leg break that happened? That was all over the internet. Did you see that, Nico?
I did not.
So, do you remember when Anderson Silva broke his leg? Hold on, I'm gonna mute. Hold on.
Yeah,
I remember when Anderson Silva broke his leg.
Yeah, I did see a highlight clip of that one.
Yeah, that was pretty nasty. Well, the guy who broke his leg, Chris Weidman, broke his leg in the exact same fashion. Unbelievable. Like, this, talk about karma. So, like, however many years later this is, he's now in MMA, throws a leg kick he's fighting Uriah Hall. Same exact thing. Well, not exactly the same. Uriah's foot is planted and he just turns and the guy hits real high on Uriah's shin and shatters his his shin bone. It's just one of the most hideous looking injuries I've ever seen.
Who
Anything
broke
is
his leg now? Who got their leg broken?
so well. Okay, I might have like jumbled that up a little bit. So originally, Chris Weidman broke Anderson Silva's leg with a block. However many years later, that same guy, Chris Weidman, broke his own leg with a kick
I
the
got you.
exact same way.
Wow,
So
that's
it's a
karma.
weird, yeah, talk about it, right? But yeah, definitely as far as martial tactics, it was a lot of discussions have been going online as to like, well, like what the hell, like how can you avoid that? What's the issue? Was he throwing the kick wrong? Was it just like a fluke thing? But it's happened
Drugs,
a few times.
steroids.
Maybe, an interesting, like I said, I've heard a lot of different things. Like if his technique was a little bit off, if he's hitting with the flat of his shin, the side of it, as opposed to the edge, it's just like hitting with a ruler. It's easier to snap that way. But yeah, maybe his leg wasn't conditioned enough. One of our guests that we had here a couple of weeks ago, Rick Solo, obviously super into, he's spent his life, in Thai sports. And I said, does this happen in Thailand? Have you seen any of them break their legs like that? Because they're constantly throwing shin leg kicks. And he says, no, they don't happen there. And,
How's he doing, by the way? Have you talked to him since?
yeah, I don't know if he's judging fights. He's, so we had to squeeze him in on a weekend where he's gallivanting around the country. I guess he spends, when he's not coaching at his gym, he referees and judges fights. I don't know if he referees, but he definitely judges. So he sent me, occasionally he'll send me some ringside video of some knockout that just happened or whatever, when he was there. But, it's very interesting. I guess there's a very thriving Muay Thai, culture going on in the U.S. and fights across the U.S. So he's clearly very active. So yeah, we'll have to have him back and talk about it. One thing he did bring up though that I thought was interesting is he said, the emphasis in Thailand, they still do a lot of road work, and that he believes that road work builds density, bone density in those legs. That if you're putting on a lot of miles, you will get, a lot of basically just strengthen those bones, which is something to consider too. Besides, obviously we talk a lot about aerobics and bursts and things like that, but there is probably some value to the long, or at least middle distance running to build that up.
Yeah, I just think one of the issues with MMA is not all of these guys, but I would say the majority of them don't participate in the sports that they're training in. Okay. They'll practice wrestling. They'll practice Thai boxing. They'll practice American, Western boxing, right? But they're not boxers. They're not wrestlers. They're not Thai boxers. I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying, just many of them just, they dabble, they do all this. So it could be, and I'm not speaking on Chris Weidman or whatever his name is. I'm not saying him, but when you just dabble in this stuff, you don't really immerse yourself in it like Rick Solo would immerse you in a Thai boxing culture, right? You come train with us, you're going to be immersed in catch wrestling or combatives. You go to some other gym, they're Luduva, you're going to be immersed in boxing, and you're going to be with a coach that knows everything about that, right? And you can be protected. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But it's interesting what Rick Solo says about road work and density. I don't know. I can tell you on the flip side of that, because I was a sprinter in high school, I overran and I had terrible shin splints that to this day bother me. 40 years later, I have problems with my shins from running hard, improper, because I didn't have proper coaching. So it's a double-edged sword. And I'll tell you, man, shin splints are something you don't want to deal with, man. Talk about painful. Ooh.
But yeah, I'm sure on the flip side, yeah, you can overtrain and then cause, stress fractures that way too. So, I mean, there's a balance.
Well, yeah, I mean, they didn't know what to do with me. I mean, you got to understand it. My junior year, that was our first year at that school. It was an all girls school until our crew came in. So the coaches didn't know what to do with me. You know, I was fast and oh man. So they over my senior year, I quit, you know, they ran me into the ground. And that's a shame. And years later, I went back to the school. My coach was still there. He acted like he didn't remember me. Yeah, my ass, he didn't remember me. You know, it was just pathetic. They didn't know what they were doing. So I always tell everybody, you got to get a coach, no matter what it is you're doing, music, tennis, I don't care, anything. Your coach has to be knowledgeable. And that's why I worry about people who train with these fly by night guys, you know, or girls even, you know, they could do a lot of damage, man, to you. You need somebody who knows everything, the ins and outs.
For sure. Yeah. A lot of trainers just think more is always better. You know, they don't know when to back off, you know, and obviously recovery time, and you got to consider everything when you're dealing with, you know, your athletes. Like in our case, you know, a lot of us are older now, you know, we're not gonna be able to put the same wear and tear on, you know. It takes someone who's very knowledgeable. You know, it's not just simply just push harder all the time.
Less is more sometimes, you know. Your body needs to recuperate. You have to push your body hard. You have to push your mind hard. Then you have to shut it off. You know, you have to step away, you know, and regroup. It's just so much of this is common sense, and yet common sense isn't so common, is it? Right? Um, yeah, it's unfortunate. But again, too, fluke accidents can happen. Look at me. You were there when I blew my right arm out. That was a total fluke. You know, shit just happens, right? But you don't need to go looking for trouble, right? You don't need to go push it. Especially like you said, we're getting older. But Joe, the older you get, the better you look. I mean, it's unbelievable. I get literally tens of thousands of emails from people all over. Some of the emails I don't even understand. I can't even read it because it's in a foreign language. But there's always that thing with the Google Translate will say, we want his hair, something. It's always that. So even though you're getting older, man, you got fans, not just worldwide. You know, the Pentagon has released information about unidentified flying objects and this and that. And I'm certain that I've gotten emails from other galaxies about you. I mean, that's you're universal. Okay.
Mr. Universe.
Yeah, he is. No, he's well known. He's intergalactic. Honestly, Joe, you have no idea how much this podcast and you in general have reached.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, I definitely definitely deal with a lot of groupies, and that's why I have to stay moving. That's part of why the move, you know, I have to, you can't stay still for too long, because then it impacts your life, your day-to-day life. You can't have like a normal life where you just go out, you know, and you're not mobbed, you know, just like the Beatles were. It's just, you know, it's just, you become a prisoner of your own greatness. You know, it's a victim. It's a vicious cycle. So.
Well, you're handling it with it. A lot of modesty, first and foremost. I give you that.
As far as modesty, I'm the greatest. Yes.
Yeah. I love it. You're an inspiration to all of us. I tell you. Don't forget now, we're going to make a wig. We're going to give it to Nico.
And then I'll be the greatest.
Yeah. Right. Oh, man. Speaking of the greatest, I made pasta the other day. It wasn't the greatest. The spaghetti's fine, right? So I don't make my own gravy anymore. I don't do that, right? I normally buy Paul Newman spaghetti sauce and I doctor it up a little bit. But the other day I said, I'm not with it anymore, right? I'm just like going through the motions. I'm just eating to eat. And I had some, I don't know if it was during the COVID, If somebody, for a brief period of time, my mom had a caretaker, and she may have brought over some no-name jar. So I grabbed that by mistake, and I just used that. And oh man, it was like putting water, like flavored water on your noodles. Not very good. So
Tony, did you discover the Paul Newmans during your pasta sauce test that they made you take?
Remember that?
Is that when you discovered it, or did you know about it before then?
Oh no, I knew about it from years ago, but I did bring that up when I did that pasta, that taste test thing. Yeah. So the other day, 2 days ago, I went grocery shopping, and I bought, and I haven't used it yet, but I bought a Paul Newman garlic Alfredo sauce. Okay, so I bought some fettuccine, and I bought the Paul Newman garlic Alfredo, I think it is, because I like garlic. I always put more, garlic powder in it anyhow. But yeah, so I'm gonna try that maybe this weekend. Yeah, no, I like Paul Newman spaghetti sauce.
One of the
you should get him as a sponsor on the podcast.
Exactly.
Paul Newman's spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, he's dead, but yeah, we can.
The company lives on. We just.
Well, my grandmother apparently was his caregiver, or nanny, not caregiver, a nanny. Because Paul Newman's from Cleveland. He's from Shaker Heights, Ohio. And I guess before his father owned Newman Stern Sporting Goods. They're very wealthy. And he had a brother named Alfred or Alan or something like that, Albert Newman. And apparently when my grandmother was a teenager, or maybe 20 years old, something like that, before she got married, was their caretaker, I guess, for a while. Nanny, I guess. I don't know. That's what she said. I don't know if it's true or not. That's what she said. Why would she lie? That's long before he became an actor. He was probably just 12, 13 years old, Yeah, Paul Newman, pride of Cleveland, man. Bob Hope is probably the most famous Clevelander, even though he was born in England, but he was raised in Cleveland. And actually was in my backyard, kind of, sort of, almost. Long story. We'll talk about it if we ever do our Cleveland trip. We can, even though my house is no longer there, we can film this to show you where where Bob Hope boxed and where my backyard was, and they kind of right-angled each other almost. Cleveland was an interesting town. Don't get me started, because I love Cleveland. To me, Cleveland is the most dissed city in America. It was horrible in the 1970s. Thank you, Johnny Carson, who made Cleveland the brunt of many jokes, and he shouldn't have. He was a mean-spirited man by all accounts. Even though I loved his show, that was why we get my Buddy Rich fix. But yeah, Cleveland had a lot of things going for it. I miss that city. If it wasn't for the winters, I'd move back.
Yeah, it's interesting. As time has gone on, I wonder if Paul Newman is maybe the bigger star. I think maybe he's more remembered. I don't know, but it seems like he was part of some very significant movies and stuff.
But don't forget, Bob Hope did all the USO shows and everything, and I think Paul Newman was more talented, but Bob Hope was an American institution. It's hard to say.
But as time goes by, a lot of those specials and those things, sure. Obviously he's a huge star, but like a lot of that stuff is lost to time, depending, like being like Paul Newman being in important big films, I think his longevity will be a lot longer necessarily, like that's just my speculation. But as time goes on, I think he will continue to grow and be remembered. But that's just my guess.
Yeah, who knows? He did legendary movies, just hit after hit. The Hustler is my favorite, obviously, because it's a pool thing. But then, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with Liz Taylor and HUD. and the Sting, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and Harper, just on and on and on. Absence of Malice, Color of Money. I didn't like the Color of Money. I don't like Tom Cruise, but he just never. Yeah, the guy had hit after a lot of hits.
Speaking of spaghetti sauce, a couple Italian food anecdotes. One, I regret that I never learned to cook my mother's spaghetti sauce when she was cooking regularly, because as she got older, much older, she kind of lost it, because a lot of it, I think she would just do. She had like a little notepad of stuff that she would do, but I think she also did it a lot, somewhat by instinct. So when she stopped cooking, after several years, and I eventually it's like, hey, let's try and do this. Let's cook. She couldn't do it the same. She kind of had lost it. And I've heard that with a lot of people when they talk, when their parents or grandparents get older. Just that's another warning out there. Some more life tips from Joe for the people in the podcast listening is, man, if you've got some family member who can cook something, learn how they do it. Get it, write it down, and practice it yourself. Don't take that stuff for granted. A lot of that stuff, when it's gone, you can't get it back. So yeah, she used to, I'd say every week we were having, one or two pasta dishes, and she wasn't Italian. My dad was, but she learned to cook it for him. And she had this great red sauce, but she can't even do it anymore, so that's a bummer. The other thing I heard, and it'd be interesting. So you had more like, you were kind of connected with your whole family was Italian, right, Tony? You're 100%.
Yes.
So my niece just came back from Italy. She went over there. She was in Milan. She studied for a couple of years, got her master's degree over there. I mean, she's an amazing kid. But she said they didn't know what mustacholi was. They did not know. They didn't. She had and it's actually, there's a dessert over there called mustacholi apparently. And they were confused when she said, because they asked her about Italian food in the US, and she's like, oh yeah, well, my mom makes mustacholi all the time. And they're like, well, like the dessert. I mean, when you were growing up, was mustacholi like a staple?
No, in my house, no. I mean, mustacholi existed, but no, I never had it. Rigatoni now and then, but my grandmother made pasta with, we had it twice a week with a chicken on the side. Not chicken cacciatore, but just a chicken leg. We didn't eat well. Yeah, you'd be surprised. The Italian food over there is completely different than it is here. Pizza, for example, is unrecognizable. Okay, I mean, maybe now in Italy they're doing the Americanized style, but yeah, it's totally different. Like this Italian beef, I never heard of Italian beef until I moved to Chicago. I don't even like Italian beef. That's not an Italian thing. That Jardiniere. That's not Italian. That's a Chicago creation. Okay, they invented that here in Chicago. So you have you think it's this all Italian shit. It's not Italian.
Although I've been told, so the Philly, we go harking back to an earlier episode with the Philly cheesesteak.
Don't bash Philly.
I'm not bashing them.
Okay.
I love Philly. I had a great time there, but that the Philly cheesesteak has some like Italian roots. And so to me, the Italian beef and the Philly cheesesteak must have a common ancestor. However, whatever it is, they seem to have the same ancestry because they're very close and similar, especially if when I had one of the Philly cheesesteaks, I think I just had it with like provolone one time because we were getting it routinely. They were like, well, if we're going to get it here, we're going to try it multiple times. And then I was like, oh, that's once I had that without the onions, I was like, oh yeah, now we're getting close to the Italian beef. So there is something there, I think, to it, at least, and obviously, Italian cuisine is not just one homogenous thing, it's, so I almost wonder, like, whatever that sandwich was, or whatever that preparation of meat was, it's like, that's the Chicago interpretation of it.
Yeah, probably. And don't forget now, Italy, they have the different regional wines, tastes, foods, whatever. My grandfather, the Cecchine side of things, came from roughly outside of Rome. Okay, roughly about 90 kilometers outside of Rome. And my grandmother, my mom's side came northern Italy. So I was raised more with I was raised by my mom's parents, so I dealt with the northern Italian cuisine and things. But my grandmother, she was homogenized. She cooked Polish food because there was a lot of Polish. And my grandmother was actually raised in a Polish neighborhood in Cleveland. My grandfather was actually raised in a Slovenian neighborhood in Cleveland, which makes sense because he was from Trieste, which is right on the border. Certain times, Trieste was part of Slovenia, and certain times it wasn't. So my grandfather spoke American, Italian, and Slovenian. Okay, so I had a lot of that influence. So, but I did not eat well, as a kid. As you know, I had malnutrition. I was skinny but twice a week we had spaghetti. We had that. And once in a blue moon, my grandmother would make a feast. She could cook when we had to watch because my grandfather had diabetes. So we had to watch she had to watch what she made. But, I've tried a lot of Italian food through the years. Because I've been single most of my life. A lot of women will want to cook me back in the day when I was younger. They would, let me make you some Italian food. I'd rather them not. Just make me, whatever you make. Don't, because they're proud of it never really tasted good. I'm particular about my Italian food.
What's different about the northern Italian cuisine? What makes it different than like southern?
Yeah, and not just southern too, just coastals too. Like for example, if you live near the sea, you'd eat more seafood. We had no seafood. I can tell you guys this, and this may shock both of you. I never had a piece of fish of any kind until I was in the 9th grade. And I went to Benedictine High School and they had a fish fry. And I went to Benedictine in my 9th grade year and I had Canadian walleye. That was the only time I had fish. Now, I only went to Benedictine for 1 year. I never had fish again until I was 18 or 19. And one of the clubs that I belonged to had shrimp on a Friday. I didn't know. I never had shrimp. I never even saw a shrimp. I ate the tail and everything. I didn't know any better. I swear to God. So some of the southern and let's say would be eastern, even probably in the west as well. In Italy, they had a lot of fish. Pescatore. I didn't have that. My grandmother cooked more just plain sauces, nothing really, very peasant-ish. Although northern Italy is where supposedly all the money, all the brains are, right? Now here's the thing though, my grandmother, I don't know where she was. I don't remember where she was from in Italy. I don't recall now. My grandfather, as I said, I know where he was from. He was Trieste. My grandmother, I'm not certain. I did know at one point in time. My memory fails me. But yeah, you go to different regions, you get the different flavors or the different types of music or the different wines. What's interesting, like all the Italian songs that most of us know, O Sole Mio and the Tarantellas and all of this. A lot of those songs the Tarantellas, some of that came from Sicily, but most of that music came from Naples, okay? Nabladan. And they produced a lot of music in the Naples region. That'd be interesting to find out why. Because I would think most of it would have came out of Rome. No, Naples for the music. But yeah, I'm not a big Italian food. I'm not a cook. Really. I'm not big on cooking, Nico, so I cannot really pinpoint all the differences, right? Between northern, southern, this, that. Talk to Stanley Tucci. He would know. He's doing that show on going through Italy, I guess, with all the different. Give me southern food. I've had southern Italian food here in Chicago. Italian food. Southern. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, for years, I always thought you were Jewish, right? Because, well, you look at number two, somebody must have told me that. Have any of you guys, because in Chicago, I don't know of a Jewish restaurant. There's Manny's, which is a deli. Are there Jewish restaurants in Chicago where you can actually have a meal?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, that's the only ones I know of are delis.
Yeah.
There was this place on in I think Evanston, and the guy it's called Romanian kosher deli, but the guy makes the hard salami like fresh, he dries it himself. I mean, it's fantastic. It's made with kosher beef. Best hard salami ever.
Well, on that note, I will throw out this. This is Slovenia. Cleveland is the capital of Slovenia. No, not the capital of Slovenia. More Slovenians and Croatians live in Cleveland than anywhere in the country. Like Chicago has more Polish than anywhere in the country. So the Slovenians make this cold cut, and normally it's popular around Easter time. It's called želodec. And my friend's mother used to make that in Cleveland, Mrs. Gorsick. And it is phenomenal. Now, I heard there used to be a Slovenian deli on the south side of Chicago. I've never found one. But when we go to Cleveland, Joe and Nico, we have to, there's a, I don't, right, again, my memory fails me. There's a deli. I'll find it. It's easy to find. I know where it's at. And we'll see if we can get some želodec. You'll love that, Nico. If you're into that type of salami kind of stuff, you'll love this. This želodec is phenomenal. I'd like to find it, but I can't spell it. Because Slovenian language is it's. I don't know how to spell it. I don't know Slovenian. I only know a few words in Slovenian or Croatian, but I don't know how to spell it. I'd look it up and see if there's a deli around here that sells it, in Chicago.
Yeah,
I don't know about specifically like Jewish restaurants, but I know there's a lot of like Mediterranean and Middle Eastern restaurants around the city too, like Persian and things like that. That must be related. Obviously, like because and I've been to Israel, right? I was there as like and as a kid once. So we did a family trip there. It's a long story.
You're back.
Yeah, yeah, stuff like falafel. That's like Mediterranean street food. You can get that.
I love it.
Yeah, very tasty stuff. That saved my life when I was over there because a lot of the food was like. That was at least kind of like almost like fast food where I was like, okay, I can eat this. You're deep frying some stuff. I can eat it, and it was in a pita, it was definitely tasty. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I had curry today.
Yeah, you've got a good Indian place up by you, right?
Yeah. I had it today. I went there just to get curry tater tots.
That's an American dish, boy.
No, that's why he puts it. Well, I mean, I have
recognized. It's just it reminds me of that melting pot thing where it's like
I enjoy that. I mean, because you can't get good food out here where I live at all. Period. Forget it. But he's exotic, because he's from India, so he's exotic with that. And I have fire. I tried fire too, like double fire, as he calls it. I made it through it, but it was hard. It was very unenjoyable for me. I can't handle that super hot stuff. I can't do it. Nico could handle it. I cannot. Yeah. Nico could handle it easy, but I can't.
Yeah, I eat a lot of hot.
Yeah, you'd like this place. If you can come over here during the week, because I don't think he's there on the weekends, but he's there during the week. We'll go there. I'll have him fire up the curry. Chickpea curry or whatever. Tandoori, whatever.
I love the Indian food.
Yeah, you'd love it. Oh, it's good.
Indian food's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Joe, you have to try it. I used to not be able to eat that, but as I said, as I got older now, I could. I went. Like my buddy Scott took me to get some wings a couple weeks ago, because I can leave during the day now a little bit, just for when my mom's in daycare. And we went to another place in Fox Lake, and I had their wings, Pug Mahomes, and I was able to eat their hottest wings, their number 8s, and the cook was sitting with us, I guess, and he's like, "Don't get too cocky, man." He says, if I wanted to, I can make those rubs. I can go up to like 30. Yeah, that's what he said. I can go up to like 30. We have 8s on the menu. You ate the 8th. I'm like, dude, I'm not a hot eater, man. I'm not. I'm just saying. I ate the number 8s. That's it. No, I don't want to go anymore. No, he said he could make it so it's not even enjoyable. But there's people out there that's what it's like a badge of honor. They don't even taste the chicken anymore, right? Or whatever. That they just want to be able to say they ate that, that super hot stuff.
There's pepper eating contests. There's people who I knew a kid. He's not a kid. He was probably in his 20s. He was at my work, but yeah, he talked about it where they have contests where they line up the peppers. You might have there's a point system depending on the mix of peppers you eat, and I guess it's like they have a 2-minute clock. They start the timer, and depending how many points you can consume, that's how they rank everybody at the end. But yeah, I mean, they're carrying guys out of there, because but I think I can't remember how many, did he get 5 habaneros down in 2 minutes? I can't remember he came in second, this kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But he makes his own peppers, and stuff and I can't, this is a long time ago now, but I remember he's saying stuff, you have to be very careful of some of those things when you handle them. Like after you handle them, you have to wash because if you touch your eyes or something like that, after you mess with those peppers, forget it. But no, yeah, you're right. It's become its own kind of weird sport and kind of rite of passage for people to do that. It'd be interesting to see how Casey does with what number Casey could go up to with those wings, because he in Thailand, obviously they're very spicy and hot food, and he's tries to hang with the locals there. He came back here because he had jet lag when he flew back here for his buddy's wedding. He wanted to stay up for the 24 hours to kind of reset his body clock. And so we took him to a Mexican restaurant. He's like, give me something hot to keep me awake, something spicy. And they came and we'll give you the hottest thing we've got. And it was some kind of a red soup. And he took it and he didn't flinch. And the waitress was shocked. She's like, I can't even eat that, And I mean, there's not a whiter kid on the face of the earth than Casey, but man, he's built up a tolerance, it's impressive.
Well, these wings would not faze him. He'd have to talk to the cook. That cook would have to spice it up for him. He has, what did he call it? The cook called it some sprinkle dust, or he had a name for this dusting that he puts on it. But the Indian curry, Vic at my place could make it, probably challenge your son. He could probably make it so Casey would have a little bit of an issue.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it'd be fun to see. Either way, it's a win for me, whether he can eat it or not. I get to watch him suffer then. But it's impressive because, yeah, I'm not very good with spice. I try to push the envelope sometimes, but you're right. It's just it just tastes like burning. It's not enjoyable. It changes from eating to another experience. Although I guess a lot of people get endorphins off of it after the pain subsides.
On another note, I got to make an announcement, but I have to clarify this announcement. Okay. In no way what I'm about to say reflects on Sylvia Lewis or Julie Newmar or Raquel Welch, okay, or any of those legendary beauties. But I have to say that there's a new kid on the block. I've been watching her recently, and her name escapes me, but you know who I'm talking about. She's my age. She's from Britain.
You talking about the Queen?
No. Don't poke fun. What's that actress from Britain that does all these? Now she's posing in bikinis like every month. Real famous.
Your age, British.
Yeah, absolutely breathtakingly beautiful.
Oh man.
She was going out with that Hugh guy.
Oh, Elizabeth. Is it Elizabeth
Hurley?
Yeah.
Elizabeth Hurley. That's it. Yeah. Elizabeth Hurley. Yeah.
Wow. I remember her from like probably 20 years ago. She was one of the hotties.
She's didn't mean anything to me then. She's looking pretty good now. I mean, like really good. No Julie Newmar, no Sylvia Lewis, but she's yeah. I just saw Paul Dodds would email me about her, and so he kind of got me turned on to that, and I kind of been seeing her lately. She'd like you, Joe. I'm sure. I was
gonna say I'll put in a good word for you then, Tony. If I knew you're interested, I'll just send her something and say so, maybe get her to say hello or something for you.
Yeah, I can be your bodyguard. I could easily do that. That would be my pleasure.
There was actually, what's that comedian's name? See, now I'm like you. I can't give names. This has got to be a riveting podcast where I'm struggling for names for these people. I know he's on that firefighter show, Rescue Me. Do you know what that? See, you don't watch TV, Nico, so you don't know what I'm talking about.
Nope.
Anyways, there's Elizabeth Hurley episode of one of his TV shows when he was a cop that was hilarious. Where he has to bodyguard her, basically. Yeah, that was a good show. Stay tuned. By the next podcast, I'll have remembered who I'm talking about. Yeah. But yeah, that was a good episode with her. But I haven't seen her in anything in a long time. So.
Well, Christy Brinkley's looking good. She's in her mid-60s. You know, I told you I dated that girl, Chris, who looked exactly like Christy Brinkley. Chris used to have a shirt that I loved it. She had this T-shirt that said "No" with an exclamation point. Christy Brinkley looks like me, which I thought was classic. She's a South Sider, Nico. She lived on the South Side. Absolutely stunningly beautiful. And she won a lookalike contest. She was a dead ringer for Christy Brinkley. But, you know, Billy Joel was married to, you know, he Uptown Girl. He wrote that song for her, I believe, you know.
Wow. Fellow Southsider.
Oh, my Chris? Yeah. She was, well, not my Chris, but the girl I dated, yeah. Yes. I actually not saw her physically, but emailed her or something like that, like a couple years ago. She got married and divorced, and, you know, yeah, same like me, you know. But no, I would never. I mean, I lived too far from her when I was living on the north side of Chicago. Now, I mean, I'm living on the north side of planet Earth over here, you know, shit. She's very, very attractive lady, very nice lady. But yeah, no, there's just something about, you know, beautiful women, you know, that it's appealed to me since I was a kid. I don't know. I got my preferences, you know, like I'm thinner and, you know, and this and that. That's how I am.
Well, I still can think my nomination for number one still holds up pretty well. That Gal Gadot. So.
Is that Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one you put on your desktop a few weeks ago or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty. Yeah, I can't put her at number one. I can't. Honestly, I can't. She's very attractive, but she's not even in my top 40, honestly.
Not 40, wow.
No, she isn't. Honest to God, no. I can rattle off names right now that would, to me, for my tastes, Jacqueline Smith, Cheryl Ladd, you know, Christy Brinkley, as we just said. I could go on and on. Bridget Bardot, Sophia Loren, Gina Lollobrigida. I can go on and on. I have.
Do you count the Olsen twins as one or two?
I can't count that high, Joe. I can only go one. I'm Italian, don't forget. I'll tell you, you know who actually, they weren't twins, but when I was a kid, the Landers sisters, remember? Audrey and Judy Landers?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't place it now.
Yeah, I met them at the Cleveland at the car show. They, the Dukes of Hazzard, the Boss Hog was there, and Adam 12, Martin Milner and Kent McCord. And anyhow, yeah, the Judy Landers, who I always thought was prettier than Audrey Landers. Yeah, they were like pinup girls when I was a kid. I was really young, like 11, 12 years old, whatever, 10. I don't remember how old I was. Yeah, no, there were no, I don't know if there was any. Oh, remember Barbie Benton? Or you guys, you don't remember her? Okay. I would say Gil, what's her name? Gil what?
Gal, like G-A-L, Godot.
Gal Godot?
Godot is her last name, yeah.
Gal Godot, I would say she's probably more attractive to me than Barbie Benton. But no, I just, I find there was a woman named Tina Hudson. Neither one of you have ever heard of her, but she was voted face of the 80s. And she was briefly in the beginning of the movie Octopussy, James Bond. And this is whenever that came out, like 1983, 82, 83, 84, something like that. Where she was startling. I got to see Valerie Perrine in 1985. Breathtakingly beautiful. I met a woman personally now who was in the Miss Universe contest at one point. She was my age, but she was in a Miss Universe back years before. In River Grove, Illinois, of all places. Absolutely beautiful. One of these days I'll have to tell you about that incident. It was unbelievable. But yeah, I've been lucky, man. I've seen some pretty girls. And I'm forgetting, some of the Polish girls that I know in Chicago are better looking to me than that Gil Godot or Gal, whatever her name is. What's her name? First name?
Gal, like
Gal. Yeah, no, she's very, very attractive though, Joe. Swear to God, she is. She really is. But I honestly, I've been lucky. I've gotten to know some very, very wonderful, wonderful looking and wonderful women, just nice.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do more candidates for this century. Like, what about Kate Beckinsale? You guys?
I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Kate Beckinsale is?
Can't help you out with that.
Yeah, we don't live in the reality world here. Nico and I are somewhere in the back.
I'm in my own world.
Yeah, me too. I'm with him.
Well, Nico, have your son show you what Google is, and then have him type in Kate Beckinsale for you. And then
all right.
Is that the one that was in Titanic?
That's Kate Winslet.
Oh, yeah. I never found her.
She's pretty, but no. Do you ever seen? This might trigger. She was in those Underworld movies. It was like a werewolf vampire movie. It was high art, is what I'm talking about.
I never heard of those movies.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyways, I know Brian is probably listening, and he knows he'll agree with me.
Who?
Brian's listening right now. He'll agree with me. He's
probably shaking his head at me. I don't know these things. Okay.
I'll take your word for it, Joe. The other one was pretty hot.
Yeah, no, yeah, right. Gal Godot, get out, whatever her name is. She was very. She was attractive. I have to admit that, man. She was. I'll tell you, I remember I used to play music with a guy in Cleveland, Awesome Mike Austin, who went to was it Wycliffe High School or something like that, with Jane Kennedy, who was like Miss USA, and she was famous for a while. She made a lot of, she made movies and everything. She was either Miss America or Miss USA. I think she was Miss USA. She was very pretty. Halle Berry, another one from Cleveland, absolutely beautiful.
Now you're starting to get into modern times. Not that modern, probably 80s or 90s, but Still.
my age, Halle Berry. She's my age. She's like a year younger or something like that. Don't diss the Cleveland chicks, baby. Yeah, she's very, very pretty, man. Ooh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I tell you, I loved when I was a kid growing up. They used Marilyn McCoo. She hosted Solid Gold, and Marilyn McCoo was in the Fifth Dimension, and I think she was married to Billy Davis, maybe not, but thought so. I thought she was. I thought she was the bee's knees, man. She was really pretty to me, man. Unbelievable.
For guys of a certain age, that show Solid Gold, I think, played a formative role in our upbringing, man. Because I remember they'd have the dancers come out. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Solid Gold dancers.
I don't remember like why I watched the show. I wasn't old enough to comprehend it, but I knew I couldn't look away. Like I knew there was something compelling that I had to watch this musical show that I had no interest in.
Well, that was me. Like when Charlie's Angels would come on, I'd want to be outside all day and all night. I'd want to sleep outside. I never wanted to come in the house or something. And then, it's Charlie's Angels is on. All right, I got to go in. I didn't want to miss Charlie's Angels. And yes, I loved Farrah. And yes, something about Cheryl Ladd. And then I got to meet Jacqueline Smith when I got older in person. And she was mesmerizing, to say the least. And Kate Jackson was very pretty too, and then Shelley Hack and then Tanya Roberts, who passed away. Tanya Roberts, oh my God, I had it for her for a while too. Oh my own. She was amazing. But I've met and dated and even married a very beautiful woman. I've dated a lot of pretty girls, beauty contest winners and shit. I've been very lucky for a slug like me, just an average Joe. I don't know, I've been pretty lucky, but I think living in Chicago, you've seen some of those Polish women that I know, Joe. Boy, it's just hard to, man, they're beautiful. I mean, beautiful. And nice.
No, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it goes, I think there's an old saying, but, I can't remember, but you don't have to, there's a lot of beautiful women who have not entered a contest in their life,
No, right. Yeah. Right. But it boils down to your niceness. How nice of you, how nice of a person are you? That's the thing. And, you can fake it. I mean, you can't fake looking pretty. You're either pretty or you're not. You can fake being nice, but ultimately your ugliness will show through. So I've always liked pretty women who are nice. And they're out there.
I like the abusive ones.
Well, Joe, I don't want you to be abused anymore. You can reach out for help. You know that, right? I mean, you can call Nico, me. There's help out there for people like you.
That's if you don't want the abuse.
Okay, Joe, we understand. Okay, so there's clinical psychologists out there that you can talk to, that can deal with this issue that you're going through. Obviously, you have some sort of issue, and I'm not licensed to diagnose.
Well, I mean, look who I pick from my friends on podcasts. Of course, there's issues.
Who's your friends? You're not talking about Nico and me. Don't start your abuse on us. Okay? You're a co-host. That's it. Stop this friendship, okay? Because that's you're overstepping your boundaries, right, Nico?
Yeah, I think it's starting to get toxic, Joe.
Yeah. Joe, what are your thoughts on Svengoolie?
Well, I'm familiar with the son of Svengoolie, so not the original Svengoolie, if I'm referring to the same person. So I grew up with the son of Svengoolie, and actually my Casey was good friends and actually stood up in the wedding of one of Svengoolie's, I guess, nephews or cousins. So I have a connection. I'm so like 3 or 4 degrees separated from the son of Svengoolie, but I grew up on those movies. That's part of, along with the Solid Gold Dancers, watching Svengoolie horror movies was a big part of and explains a lot, probably, honestly, about my outlook on life. But yeah, no, I'm a fan.
Well, next time you see him, you tell him that I said, he ripped off Cleveland. Actually, he had to go to court over this, apparently. Cleveland started all of that. There was a guy in Cleveland, Ernie Anderson, named Goulardi. Okay. And then Goulardi moved to Hollywood to do a lot of stuff. As a matter of fact, back in the 70s, when they would do the intros for the Love Boat, he was the announcer for that and everything. And Cleveland ended up, after Goulardi left, Cleveland had a guy named the Ghoul. Okay. And that's where Svengoolie copped it from the Ghoul, who copped it from Goulardi. And they had, I guess, go to court to get the rights to go even by Svengoolie or something like that. So once again, Joe, yes, you have a connection to Svengoolie, but Svengoolie is connected to Cleveland. It all goes back to Cleveland, man.
Well, you can't claim bozo, though, can you?
No, we cannot. No.
I know you're an aspiring bozo, but the original bozo.
What do you think? I'm clowning around here? Come on, no. We can't do bozo. But Cleveland had Superhost, and Cleveland had Barnaby, and Cleveland had, I think, the first or second Romper Room. Yeah, we had all that. Cleveland had the first talk show. Like how you have like the View and all of that, whatever. Well, Cleveland started all of that stuff with the Morning Exchange and things like. Cleveland was an innovator, believe it or not. Cleveland's a great city, man. A lot of history about Cleveland. My favorite city in America. Yeah, it was a very happening town, and it was much more happening before I was even born. 40s and 50s and everything. Organized crime, everything. We had it all.
You should really do like a YouTube channel just talking about Cleveland, just little things, little snippets of things that you like about it. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I got to get back to my YouTube channel. I just have not physically been well. I don't. Oh, since we've been on, I got my first vaccination shot 2 weeks ago tomorrow, and next Friday I get my second Pfizer shot. So I'll be fully vaccinated, and then 2 weeks after that, you're at 100%, I guess, whatever. So yeah, but yeah, the stress, honestly, with my mother is, I don't sleep at night, and now, I used to joke around that I'd get like 5 hours of sleep. Now it's about 3 hours. That's all I'm getting. That's why, like earlier today, when I reached out to you, I said, Joe, I got to try to take a nap. Please wake me up so I can do the podcast. Thank you for doing that. I want to say to people out there, I want to kind of sidetrack because this is actually public service announcement. This is important. When you don't sleep, your world comes to an end. It's no good. So my mom had a friend, and I knew him as well. His name was Yash. That's Polish, but he was an American guy. But this is back in Cleveland, and Yash couldn't sleep. He went through sleep studies at the Cleveland Clinic and other places, and he just went on and on where the man couldn't sleep. And he finally ended up committing suicide. It was just too much. Never being able to shut your brain down, never being able to get that rest. And that happens. That's what I'm going through. I can't sleep. I'm getting now, like I said, about 3 hours of sleep, and I can't function anymore. It's very difficult. And I don't wish this on anybody. I'd rather somebody go through an illness because that can be treated, but this not sleeping thing, oh.
Is it just your mind running?
Well, yeah, I have racing thoughts, sure. And I've always had that. I'd wake up full blast. But my mother, it's because of her. I have to sleep the expression with one eye open. She paces like when I'm here in the basement, pacing, 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 thinking I'm not here. Like I said, she no longer knows. She thinks I'm a roommate. Okay. She doesn't realize what's happening. So I have to be very mindful of her. So I constantly wake up full blast, and then I go to check on her. So I'm sleeping in spurts of like maybe an hour. Then I get up, I go check on her, I come back, and now I'm up for another hour, hour and a half. I doze off again, and it's the cycle repeats. So normally I'm dozing off maybe 3 times, sometimes 4 times. Sometimes I'll get 4 hours, but it's like every I because I got a clock in my room, so I see, I know exactly what time I'm getting up. And like this morning, I was up for good. My final up was at 3 a.m. And you know, I laid down at 10:30, and I was up every hour, and finally I got up at 3, and that was it. I never went back to sleep. Not good.
Long term, that's not going to be good. That's going to have a cumulative effect on you.
I'm going to probably keel over of a heart attack. I mean, it's just the way it is. You can't live like this.
I recently heard, and I know you've tried CBD. I think we've tried that.
I never did that, but I still take those pills that that the candy stuff that your wife gave me.
Those are not CBD. I thought those I can't remember. Oh no, the melatonin, I think.
Melatonin, yeah, I never took
that.
CBD.
Doesn't have an effect on you, huh?
It doesn't help, no.
But there's even, you may want to consider it, because now that it's legal, I've heard people, they have like those pot gummies. They're not really strong. It's just like a micro dose of it. So you're not getting high, but it's enough to chill you out, to stop the racing thoughts, to get, a lot of people use that as a sleeping aid now.
Send me an email link on that so I can look into it.
Yeah, but I'd definitely consider it, because I think it helps. Like a lot of people back in the day, besides your potheads, people were using that to I got to mute. Hold on. Well, maybe not. Anyways.
You need a prescription for that, or?
No, I think nowadays, I don't think so, because you can even get it for recreational in Illinois. But and obviously you don't want, you definitely want to make sure you're getting a lower dose, because you're not looking to get any kind of a buzz from it. You just want it to, because a lot of people would use that. Like I knew people before it was legal who would use pot just as an anti-anxiety med, like if they were going to do something that would calm them down. So I think there may be literally medicinal, and I don't know a lot. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but it might be worth looking into if it's something you can take before you go to sleep, just to chill your mind out enough so you can get a few hours of sleep. That might make the difference between, a huge difference in your day. So I'll see if I can find some, articles on it for you, but yeah, I think you can pick up stuff.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Anything, because, it's, and coupled with the fact that I haven't worked in over a year because, with the COVID, I haven't trained anybody, and it just is the stress, everything. It's not, we got to make a change here. When can the 3 of us hook up? We should just hang out in Chicago, man. One day, just, I'll find somebody to watch my mom. I'll drive over to your house, Joe, and you and I can go and hook up with Nico, and we'll hang out in the city. Then I'll crash at your house, Joe, and I'll come back the next day. I'll get somebody to watch my mom. If I can, I'll.
Joe, where's your new place at?
I'm not at liberty to divulge where I live. With again, going back to the paparazzi and all the stalkers, it's better for me not to expose where, I can't. Definitely, safety tip for any of us celebrities to not let people know where we can be found. So,
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, Tony, I'll definitely clean out a space in the garage for you. Get some cardboard down for you so you feel at home, and
appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
We can watch We can put on, it really freaked me out. Put on a Woody Allen movie. I won't know whether to look at the screen or look at you.
Watch some Svengoolie.
That's right.
No, but I'm serious. We need to go to, right, Berwyn. We need to go to see Nico, man. I haven't seen Nico in over a year.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, come on.
Anytime you guys want to, I'm here on the evenings, weekdays. So just let me know.
Cool. Well, any parting thoughts? Now, I know this is not, we're recording on a Thursday, but this is going to go out, get published Sunday, and I believe that's Mother's Day. Is that not correct? I don't know if.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Yeah. Enjoy your mothers while you can. I don't have my mother anymore. She's not my mother anymore. So it's a difficult, it's tough. How's your mother doing, Nico?
Good. I haven't talked to anybody really. I'm talking to you guys is like the first communication I've had with anyone in like a month.
I think I texted your mom about a month ago or something like that. She's a nice lady. I mean, I never met her, but she's a nice lady. But yeah, Joe, it's let's definitely hook up and try to. If you can't make it, I'll try to go see Nico. Berwyn's. I almost moved to Berwyn years ago. I should have. I dated a girl that lived in Stickney, which is right over there.
Yeah.
That's going way back though. That's going way back. Early '90s, or I don't even remember when. Maybe something like that. But yeah, I actually like Berwyn.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun. We definitely need to do that. I'll be out of my class soon, so my weeknights will be up.
Well, we need to make that Cleveland trip. That would help me out. If we can make it this summer, that would be the best thing for me, to go to Cleveland and show you guys around.
No, yeah, I look forward to that. I always like checking out, new cities that I haven't been to. I've always enjoyed that.
Well, and you got somebody like me that knows. I mean, I don't know current Cleveland, but I know the history of it, and I can show you spots and places. And worst comes to worst, we'll hook up with my boy Adrian, and he'll take us anywhere and do the thing. But yeah, it would be awesome. And we'd have a nice little 6-hour car ride, man. We could really, it would just be awesome. Trust me, guys, it would be fun.
Oh shit, I'm gonna be in a car 8 hours with you, or 6 hours. Let me see. I might be washing my hair that weekend.
No, Joe, you'll be either in the back seat or the trunk. Don't worry about it. Okay. You can sleep in the trunk. Nico and I will take care of it, or Brian wants to come too. We'll have we'll have a group. It'll be great. We're going to go to Mr. Heroes for me every day. I got to have a Roman burger each and every day. Slyman's corned beef. And then we got to get a chili dog somewhere. That's Cleveland's known for that. Yeah, we're going to have a blast. Oh, the other day I was watching The Price is Right. Drew Carey's from Cleveland, and there was a contestant on, and he had a T-shirt that said, Cleveland against the world, right? And I said, I want this guy to win, because that's how it is, because Cleveland gets shit on all the time. We're a great town. We'll go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Joe, because I know you're into that, and it'll be a blast. It really will.
We definitely need to record when we're there. We'll do like an on premise, like maybe we'll film some YouTube videos from there as we.
Yeah, we'll do a podcast from there. Yeah, we'll do the whole 9 yards. That'd be great. And like I said, we'll do a tour, and the east side. I don't know shit about the west side for the most part. Well, yeah, we'll do it. And it'll be an amazing time. You guys will have a blast. We'll live large, man. We'll own the town.
I already have a title for the podcast because you know how like Debbie does Dallas, it could be Tony does Cleveland.
Tony's tours.
Yeah, right. There's a thing called Tassel. I don't know if they still do it. And I did it when I was a kid. Tassel means Tours Along South Shores of Lake Erie. And you take your bike, not a motorcycle, a bike. I used to be a road a cyclist, and you tour. You go all the way like to Toledo, which is 100 miles. So you do your century, and then you spend the night. You go back. But Cleveland has, that lakeshore. Lake Erie. I'm not a fisherman, but boy, you go out to Port Clinton, Cedar Point, and Sandusky. You just, it's beautiful. It really is.
And then like at night, they light the Cuyahoga River on fire. It's beautiful.
I'm going to tell you something. Let me talk to you about something. Let me straighten you out, kid. The Chicago River actually went on fire before the Cuyahoga River did. You're going to find out because you're going to see the bottom of the river when we get there.
You're saying Cleveland copied Chicago with the river fire?
Yeah, probably, because Chicago was a shithole town for, 100 years ago. Okay. So stop with your Cleveland insults, because you're not only insulting me, you're insulting the heart of America.
Nico can witness this. I said it's beautiful every time you light up the river.
Yeah, I'm going to light up your nose.
You can.
Right? No, but you love it. And Cleveland, that's down the flats there, where the Cuyahoga River is. The flats, that's their nighttime, nightclub thing, and all that stuff. That's you. I used to play Pac-Man at a joint called the Rascal House. I was a world record holder at Pac-Man. That was my thing. I used to go around to the different joints and at Pac-Man.
That's true. Yeah, on my Pac-Man machine, always the top score was ASS. I always used to see that. Was that you?
So Nico, since Joe will no longer be on the podcast, it's just going to be you and me. But we have to be nice. We have to go to his memorial service. So I'll pick you up and we'll go together. How's that, Nico?
Yeah, you got a suit I could borrow?
Well,
I'll have to get it tailored a little bit.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. See, I always wanted a girl that was like dyslexic, because if I said, hey, do you want to make love to me? And I would hand her my name on a piece of paper and she would read it and would say, why not? If she was dyslexic. Think about that a minute. Okay.
I think we all understood it. That's not where we're not laughing. We got it, but.
What's your last name backwards? Oij?
Oh man, I can't.
Nico is Okin? And yours is Oj or something? What would you be backwards? Yoj? I don't know.
Yoj, yeah.
Well, okay, so next week, we might as well wrap this up. Next week, we're going to have the announcement of the new membership, and we'll talk in depth about my training with Stanley Rodvan and some of the exploits that there's so much misinformation about him, legend. And I will only discuss what I witnessed, what I know to be a fact. That ought to be an interesting show.
Oh, it'll be an episode not to be missed for sure. I'm looking forward.
It's almost a shame. I wish we could have postponed it and done the episode when we were in Cleveland. That would have been, excuse me, very nice. But we'll do something special when we go to Cleveland.
Yeah, we can still do both. I think we can. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll do something special coming up when we get to Cleveland.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, good to see you.
Have a good one.
See you, everybody.